The sun was barely breaking over the asphalt when Marcus Reed parked his motorcycle outside the warehouse where he'd worked for 3 years. His left leg, stiff from an old war injury, made the dismount slower than it used to be. But Marcus never complained. He showed up early, stayed late, and did the work of 2 men, even with the limp that reminded him every day of the IED that took half his unit in Kandahar. Inside the warehouse, his boss, Vincent Harlow, a man who wore $1,000 suits to supervise dock workers, stood near the loading bay with his arms crossed. Vincent had inherited the logistics company from his father and treated it like a kingdom. And Marcus, to him, was just another expendable subject. "Look who finally dragged himself in," Vincent said loud enough for the entire crew to hear. "You planning to work today, Reed, or just stand there like a broken lawn ornament?" Marcus said nothing. He never did. He'd learned long ago that men like Vincent fed on reactions, so he nodded once, grabbed his clipboard, and limped toward the freight schedule. But Vincent wasn't done. "Honestly, I don't know why I keep you around," Vincent continued, circling Marcus like a predator. "You move like you're 80 years old. Maybe it's time we find someone who can actually keep up." The other workers looked away. They liked Marcus, respected him, but nobody said a word. Jobs were hard to find, and Vincent had a reputation for firing people on a whim. Marcus clenched his jaw and kept walking, but Vincent followed. "Tell me, Reed, does the VA pay you to hobble around feeling sorry for yourself, or is that just a side gig?" That's when something inside Marcus cracked. Not his composure. He'd been through worse than a rich man's insults. But the injustice of it, the disrespect, not just to him, but to every soldier who'd left pieces of themselves in the sand so men like Vincent could sleep safe at night. Marcus turned slowly. His voice was low, steady, and cold as winter steel. "Mr. Harlow, I've never asked you for anything but a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. I show up, I do my job, and I do it better than most. So, if you've got a problem with how I walk, that's on you. But don't you ever disrespect what this leg cost me." Vincent's face flushed red. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he considered beneath him. "You're fired," Vincent said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Get your things and get out." Marcus didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply nodded, set down his clipboard, and walked toward the exit. But as he pushed open the steel door, he pulled out his phone and sent a single text to a contact saved only as Ironside. "It's time." If you've ever been humiliated by someone who thought they were untouchable, you know what Marcus felt in that moment. But what Vincent didn't know was that Marcus wasn't just a warehouse worker. He was a brother, and his brothers were already on their way. Subscribe to find out what happens next. Marcus sat on the curb outside the warehouse, his phone resting on his knee. The morning air was cool, but his chest burned with something deeper than anger. It was the kind of wound that didn't bleed but never healed, the wound of being treated like you didn't matter. He stared at the screen, waiting. 3 minutes later it rang. "Marcus!" The voice on the other end was gravelly, worn smooth by years of highway wind and late-night rides. It belonged to Jack Ironside Callahan, president of the Iron Covenant Motorcycle Club. They'd served together in Afghanistan. Jack had been there the day Marcus lost his leg. And Jack had made him a promise in that desert hospital bed. "You're never alone, not ever again." "He crossed the line, Jack," Marcus said quietly. "Not just with me. With what we stand for." There was a pause. Then Jack's voice came back, calm and certain. "Where are you?" "Harlow Logistics, East Industrial District." "Stay put." The line went dead. Marcus pocketed his phone and looked up at the sky. Somewhere in the distance, he could already hear it. The low, rolling thunder of engines. Dozens of them, growing louder. Inside the warehouse, Vincent was laughing with his assistant manager, recounting how he'd put that cripple in his place. He didn't notice the sound at first. None of them did. But then the rumble became unmistakable. One of the dock workers stepped outside and froze. "Boss," he called back, his voice uncertain, "you might want to see this." Vincent walked to the loading dock entrance, annoyed, and then he saw them. Motorcycles, 47 of them rolling in a tight formation down the access road, chrome glinting in the morning sun, leather cuts adorned with patches that told stories of brotherhood, sacrifice, and loyalty. At the front rode Jack Callahan, his grey beard braided, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. They stopped in a perfect line 20 feet from the warehouse entrance. The engines cut off one by one, leaving only the sound of boots hitting pavement as the riders dismounted. Vincent's confidence faltered. What the hell is this? Jack walked forward slowly, his hands relaxed at his sides. He didn't need to threaten. His presence did that for him. "Vincent Harlow?" Jack's voice carried across the lot like a judge reading a sentence. Vincent straightened his tie, trying to look unbothered. "Who's asking?" "The brother of the man you just fired." Vincent laughed nervously. "Look, I don't know what Reed told you, but this is a private business matter." "It stopped being private," Jack interrupted, "the second you decided to mock a man who sacrificed more for this country than you'll ever understand." The other riders began to spread out, forming a semicircle around the entrance. They didn't say a word. They didn't need to. Vincent's assistant manager stepped forward. "You can't just show up here and—" Jack raised one hand. The man went silent. "We're not here to hurt anyone," Jack said evenly. "We're here to deliver a message, and you're going to listen." Marcus stood from the curb and walked forward, his limp pronounced, but his head high. He stopped beside Jack. Vincent looked at Marcus, then at the sea of motorcycles behind him, and for the first time in his life he felt small. "What do you want?" Vincent asked, his voice barely steady. Jack smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We want you to understand something, Mr. Harlow. Respect isn't something you buy with money. It's something you earn, and you just lost all of yours." Vincent Harlow had spent his entire life surrounded by people who told him he was important. Employees who nodded at his commands, clients who laughed at his jokes because they needed his business, a wife who stayed because of the lifestyle his money provided. But standing in front of 47 bikers who didn't care about his net worth or his family name, Vincent realized something he'd never felt before: fear. Jack Callahan stepped closer. Close enough that Vincent could see the faded scars on his knuckles and the weathered lines around his eyes, marks left by years of living hard and standing firm. "You think you can humiliate a man like Marcus and just walk away?" Jack asked, his voice calm but edged with steel. "You think that limp he carries is weakness?" Vincent opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. "That limp," Jack continued, "is a reminder that he threw himself on top of 2 men when an IED went off in Helmand province. He saved their lives, lost half his mobility doing it, and you mocked him for it." One of the riders behind Jack, a broad-shouldered man with a scar running down his temple, spoke up. His voice was rough, like gravel in a blender. "I was one of those men." Vincent's eyes flicked to him. The rider stepped forward. "Name's Devon. Marcus pulled me out of a burning Humvee after that blast. Carried me 200 yards with a shattered femur. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him." Another rider moved forward. Then another. One by one they told their stories. Men Marcus had served with. Men he'd saved. Men who owed him their lives. By the time the 5th rider finished speaking, Vincent's face had gone pale. Jack crossed his arms. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Marcus, not because we're making you, but because it's the right thing to do." Vincent swallowed hard. He looked at Marcus, who stood silent and still, his expression unreadable. Vincent started, his voice faltering. "I didn't know." "That's the problem," Jack said. "You didn't care to know. You saw a man with a limp and decided he was less than you. But that man has more honor in his worst day than you'll have in your entire life." The workers who'd been watching from inside the warehouse had gathered near the loading dock now. Some of them were filming on their phones. Others were simply staring, stunned. Vincent's assistant manager leaned over and whispered urgently, "Sir, this is going viral. We need to—" "Shut up," Vincent hissed. Jack pointed to Marcus. "Apologize. Now." Vincent took a breath. His pride fought against the reality of the situation, but the reality won. "Marcus," he said, his voice tight, I'm sorry. What I said was wrong." Marcus didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Vincent. "You're sorry you got caught," Marcus said quietly. "Not sorry for what you did." Vincent flinched. Jack stepped between them. "Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to reinstate Marcus, full pay, full benefits, and you're going to give him the respect he's earned." "And if I don't?" Vincent asked, a last flicker of defiance in his voice. Jack smiled, cold and sharp. "Then we come back. Every single day. We park right here. We don't block your trucks. We don't break any laws. But we make sure every customer, every employee, and every person who drives by knows exactly what kind of man runs this place." Vincent looked around, at the cameras, at his workers, at the bikers who stood like a wall of consequence. "Fine," he said through gritted teeth. "He's rehired." Jack turned to Marcus. "Your call, brother. You want to come back?" Marcus looked at the warehouse, at the job he'd poured himself into, at the crew he'd worked beside. Then he looked at Vincent. "No," Marcus said simply. "I don't work for men without honor." Jack nodded. "Then let's ride." The bikers turned as one and walked back to their motorcycles. Engines roared to life, filling the lot with thunder. But before Marcus climbed onto his bike, he looked back at Vincent one last time. "You'll remember this," Marcus said, "every time you look in the mirror, every time you treat someone like they don't matter. You'll remember the day you learned that respect isn't about power, it's about character." And then he rode away. The video went viral within hours. Rich boss humiliates disabled veteran, biker gang delivers justice. It spread across every platform. Local news picked it up. Then national outlets. By evening, Vincent Harlow's face was plastered across the internet alongside headlines that called him everything from cruel to coward. Vincent sat in his office, staring at his phone as notifications flooded in. Messages from clients pulling contracts, employees quitting, even his wife had called, furious that his behavior was now public embarrassment for the entire family. He'd tried to do damage control, issued a statement through his PR team about misunderstandings and taking time to reflect. But the internet didn't forgive easily, and the video didn't lie. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in the clubhouse of the Iron Covenant, surrounded by brothers who dropped everything to stand with him. The room smelled like motor oil, leather, and coffee that had been sitting too long on the burner. But it felt like home. Jack slid a beer across the table. "You did good today." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't do anything. You all did." "You stood up for yourself," Jack said. "That's everything." Devon, the man Marcus had saved years ago, leaned back in his chair. "You know what the best part of all this is? That asshole thought he had power, thought he could treat people however he wanted because he had money. But he learned something today." "What's that?" Marcus asked. Devon grinned. "That there's always someone bigger, and sometimes bigger doesn't mean richer. It means more." Marcus smiled for the first time all day. One of the younger riders, a kid named Eli who'd joined the club after losing his job and his direction, spoke up. "So, what now? You gonna find another warehouse gig?" Marcus set down his beer and looked around the table. "Actually, I've been thinking, maybe it's time I stopped working for people who don't see my worth. Maybe it's time I worked for myself." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You got something in mind?" Marcus nodded slowly. "I've been around logistics my whole adult life. I know how to run freight, manage crews, handle contracts. What if I started my own company? Small at first, just me and a truck, but honest, fair, built on respect." The room went quiet. Then Jack started clapping. Slow at first, then louder. The others joined in. "You're damn right," Jack said. "And when you need help loading, moving, or anything else, you've got 47 guys who'll show up." Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. That night, Marcus Reed didn't just leave a job. He started a future. And it began with a single promise: to never let anyone make him feel small again. But Vincent Harlow's story wasn't over yet. What happened next would change everything. Drop a comment and tell us what you think Vincent should do now, because the world was watching. 3 days after the video went viral, Vincent Harlow sat alone in his office at 11 p.m. There's the glow of his computer screen, the only light in the room. The building was empty. The employees had gone home hours ago, the ones who hadn't quit anyway. He scrolled through the emails, contracts cancelled, partnership offers rescinded. A major client had sent a terse message. "We can't be associated with someone who treats veterans this way. Consider our agreement terminated." Vincent's jaw tightened. He wanted to be angry. Wanted to blame Marcus, blame the bikers, blame the internet for turning a private moment into public crucifixion. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he rarely accessed, he knew the truth. He'd done this to himself. His phone buzzed. A text from his wife, Diane. "I'm staying at my sister's for a while. The kids are asking questions I don't know how to answer. You need to figure out who you want to be." Vincent set the phone down and stared at the wall. The plaques, the awards. The framed photo of him shaking hands with the governor, all of it felt hollow now. A knock on the door startled him. "We're closed," he called out. The door opened anyway. Jack Callahan stepped inside, his leather cut creaking as he moved. He wasn't alone. Marcus stood behind him, expression unreadable. Vincent stood quickly, instinct telling him to call security. But he didn't. "What do you want?" Vincent asked, his voice tired. Jack walked to the center of the office, hands in his pockets. "We're not here to gloat, and we're not here to threaten you." Vincent frowned. "Then why are you here?" Marcus stepped forward. "Because I've been where you are." Vincent blinked. "Excuse me?" Marcus gestured to his leg. "Not this. I mean the anger, the bitterness, the feeling that the world's turned against you and it's everyone else's fault." Vincent said nothing. "When I came back from Afghanistan," Marcus continued, "I was angry. At the doctors who couldn't fix my leg. At the VA for making me wait months for care. At everyone who looked at me with pity. I blamed everyone but myself for being miserable." Vincent sat down slowly. "It took me 2 years to realize something," Marcus said. "Being angry didn't change anything. It just made me smaller. And the only person who could change that was me." Jack leaned against the desk. "You've got a choice, Harlow. You can spend the rest of your life being the guy in that video. Or you can be someone better." Vincent looked at them both, suspicion and confusion warring on his face. "Why would you help me after what I did?" Marcus shrugged. "Because someone helped me once, and because holding on to hate just weighs you down." Vincent was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to fix this." Jack straightened. "Start by being honest. Not with us, with yourself. Ask yourself why you treated Marcus the way you did. And then figure out how to be different." Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He set it on Vincent's desk. "That's the number for a veterans hiring non-profit. They help companies like yours connect with former military looking for work. You want to make this right, start there." Vincent picked up the paper, staring at it like it was a lifeline. "And one more thing," Jack added. "Apologize to Marcus. For real this time. Not because you're scared of us. Because you mean it." Vincent looked up at Marcus. This time there was no audience, no cameras, just 2 men in an empty office. "Marcus," Vincent said, his voice cracking. "I'm sorry. Truly, I was cruel. I was wrong, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But I am sorry." Marcus held his gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Good luck, Mr. Harlow." And then they left. Vincent sat alone in the dark, the piece of paper still in his hand. For the first time in years, he cried. 2 months later, Marcus Reed stood in front of a small garage on the outskirts of town, staring at the peeling paint and rusted roll-up door. It wasn't much, but it was his. The sign above the door read, "Reed Logistics, honest work, fair pay." Jack pulled up on his motorcycle, Devon and Eli riding beside him. They dismounted and walked over, grinning. "Not bad," Jack said, looking the place over. "Needs paint." "It needs everything," Marcus admitted with a smile, "but it's a start." Devon clapped him on the shoulder. "You got your first client yet?" Marcus nodded. "Small contract, delivering auto parts across 3 states. It's not huge, but it's steady." Eli kicked at a loose stone. "You need drivers?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You got a CDL?" "Getting one next month." "Then yeah, I'll need drivers." Jack crossed his arms, pride evident in his expression. "You're doing it, brother. Building something real." Marcus looked at the garage, then at the men standing beside him. "Couldn't have done it without you." "That's what brothers are for," Jack said simply. Over the next few weeks, word spread, not just about Marcus's new company, but about what he stood for. Veterans heard about it. People who'd been overlooked, underestimated, and cast aside started reaching out. Marcus hired carefully, looking not just for skill, but for character. Within 3 months, Reed Logistics had 4 trucks on the road, and a reputation for reliability that money couldn't buy. But the story that had started this all wasn't over yet. One afternoon, Marcus was in the garage going over delivery schedules when a black sedan pulled up outside. A man in a tailored suit stepped out. Marcus recognized him immediately. Vincent Harlow. Marcus walked to the entrance, wiping grease off his hands with a rag. "Mr. Harlow." Vincent looked different. Older maybe, or just humbled. "Marcus, I wasn't sure if you'd talk to me." "I'm listening." Vincent glanced at the garage, the trucks, the sign. "You did it. Built something." "I did." Vincent shifted his weight. "I've been doing some thinking, a lot of thinking, about what you said, about who I want to be." Marcus waited. "I started working with that veterans non-profit you told me about," Vincent continued. "Hired 6 former military in the last 2 months. Changed our company policies. Made respect and dignity non-negotiable." "That's good," Marcus said. "I'm glad." Vincent nodded. "But I didn't just come here to tell you that. I came to ask if you'd consider a partnership." Marcus frowned. "A partnership?" "Harlow Logistics handles big contracts, national supply chains. But we've been losing clients because we got too big, too impersonal. You've got something we don't: trust, integrity. I want to learn from that, and I want to help your company grow." Marcus studied him carefully. "What's in it for you?" "Honestly," Vincent said, "redemption, and a chance to be part of something that matters." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. "Let's talk." They shook. Because sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who need a second chance. And sometimes giving that chance doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger than anyone who ever doubted you. If you believe in second chances, hit that like button. We're almost to the end. 6 months after their handshake, Reed Logistics and Harlow Logistics announced a joint venture that surprised the industry. The partnership was unconventional. Marcus maintained full operational control of his company, while Vincent provided capital, infrastructure, and access to larger contracts. But more importantly, Vincent had changed. He showed up to job sites now, learned the names of dock workers, listened when people spoke. He attended veteran hiring fairs and personally interviewed candidates. It wasn't performative, it was genuine, and people noticed. One afternoon, Marcus and Vincent stood together at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new Reed Logistics distribution center. It was modest compared to Harlow's corporate facilities, but it was built on something stronger than money. It was built on respect. Jack Callahan stood in the crowd with the Iron Covenant, arms crossed, a rare smile on his weathered face. When it came time for speeches, Marcus stepped to the microphone. "This place wouldn't exist without a lot of people," he began. "My brothers in the Iron Covenant who taught me that loyalty isn't just a word, the workers who believed in something better. And Vincent Harlow," the crowd murmured. Vincent looked uncomfortable, but didn't look away. Vincent made a mistake, Marcus continued. A big one, and it cost him almost everything. But he did something not many people have the courage to do. He admitted he was wrong. He changed. And he proved that who we were yesterday doesn't have to be who we are tomorrow. Vincent's eyes glistened. This company, Marcus said, gesturing to the building behind him, is proof that second chances aren't just about forgiveness. They're about transformation. And I'm proud to stand here today and say that Vincent Harlow is not the man he was 6 months ago. He's better, and so are we. The crowd applauded, some hesitantly at first, but it grew louder. Vincent stepped to the microphone next. He took a breath. I spent most of my life thinking that power came from money and status. That respect was something people owed me because of my name, but I was wrong. Respect is earned, and I lost it the moment I forgot that every person, no matter their job, their background or their struggle, has value. He looked directly at Marcus. Marcus Reed showed me what real strength looks like. It's not about never falling. It's about getting back up and choosing to be better. Thank you, Marcus, for not giving up on me when I didn't deserve your grace. The applause this time was genuine. After the ceremony, Jack approached Marcus. You did good, brother. Built something that'll outlast all of us. Marcus smiled. Couldn't have done it without you. Jack shook his head. You had it in you all along. We just reminded you. Devon walked over, grinning. So what's next? You gonna take over the whole damn logistics industry? Marcus laughed. One delivery at a time. Eli, now a full-fledged driver for Reed Logistics, joined them. Boss, we got a shipment request from a veterans hospital in Colorado. Medical supplies. They're asking if we can do it pro bono. Marcus didn't hesitate. Tell them yes. Jack clapped him on the back. That's why you're going to win. Not because you're the biggest. Because you remember what matters. As the sun set over the new distribution center, Marcus stood alone for a moment, looking at everything he'd built. Not just the building. Not just the business. The life, a life built on honor, on second chances, on the belief that one person standing up can change everything. And in the distance, he could hear the rumble of motorcycles heading out into the dusk, brothers riding toward the horizon, knowing they'd answered the call when it mattered most. 1 year after the confrontation that changed both their lives, Marcus Reed and Vincent Harlow stood side by side at a veterans job fair in downtown Phoenix. The banners overhead read, Reed Harlow Initiative, Hiring Heroes. It had become their mission. Not just a business partnership, but a movement. They'd hired over 200 veterans in the past year, provided training programs, offered mental health resources. Built a company culture where dignity wasn't negotiable and second chances were standard practice. Marcus walked through the crowd, shaking hands with former soldiers, sailors, and Marines who were looking for more than just a paycheck. They were looking for purpose, and he understood that better than anyone. A young woman in a wheelchair approached him, her service dog at her side. "Mr. Reed," she said, her voice tentative. Marcus stopped. "That's me. I just wanted to say thank you. I saw your story online, the video, what happened. It gave me hope that maybe there's a place for people like us." Marcus crouched down to her level. "What's your name?" "Sarah. I was Army, medic, IED in Mosul." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know that road. It's not easy." "No, sir, it's not." "You looking for work?" Her eyes widened. "Yes, sir, but I don't have much experience outside the military." "Experience can be taught," Marcus said. "Character can't. You served. You sacrificed. That tells me everything I need to know. Come by the office Monday morning. We'll find something that fits." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." Marcus smiled gently. "I do, because someone gave me a chance once, too." As Sarah wheeled away, Vincent approached. He'd been standing nearby, watching. "You're really good at this," Vincent said. Marcus stood. "At what?" "Seeing people. Really seeing them." Marcus shrugged. "I just remember what it felt like to be invisible. Vincent was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice softer than usual. I used to think success meant being the richest guy in the room, biggest house, fastest car, most power. He paused. But standing here, watching you change someone's life with a conversation, that's success. Real success. Marcus looked at him. You've changed too, Vincent. Don't sell yourself short. Vincent smiled, but there was weight behind it. I had to. Losing everything showed me what actually mattered. My wife came back, you know, not because I promised to be different, because I actually was. That's good. My kids look at me differently now too, like they're proud. Vincent's voice cracked slightly. I didn't realize how much I needed that until I had it. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. You earned it. As the job fair continued, Jack Callahan arrived with a contingent of Iron Covenant members. They weren't there to intimidate or make a scene. They were there as volunteers, helping veterans fill out applications, offering rides, sharing their own stories of struggle and comeback. Jack found Marcus near the registration table. Heard you hired another 30 people this month, Jack said. 32, Marcus corrected with a grin. You're gonna run out of room. Then we'll build more room. Jack laughed. You've come a long way from that warehouse, brother. Marcus looked around at the sea of people, veterans finding hope, employers finding talent, lives being changed one conversation at a time. We all did, Marcus said. As the day wound down and the crowds thinned, Marcus stood outside the convention center, watching the sun dip below the desert horizon. His leg ached. It always did after a long day, but he didn't mind. Vincent walked up beside him, hands in his pockets. You ever think about that day? Vincent asked. The day everything changed, Marcus nodded. Every day. You regret it? How it went down? Marcus thought for a moment. No, because it led to this, to people getting second chances, to you becoming someone better, to me building something that matters. Vincent smiled. You know what's funny? I spent 20 years trying to build a legacy, a name people would remember, and I failed. But this, he gestured back toward the job fair, this is a legacy, and it's not even mine, it's ours. Marcus extended his hand. Partners. Vincent shook it firmly. Brothers. In the distance, the sound of motorcycles filled the evening air as the Iron Covenant prepared to ride home. Jack waved from his bike, and Marcus waved back. As the engines roared to life and the convoy pulled onto the highway, Marcus thought about the journey, how humiliation had turned into honor, how a single moment of cruelty had sparked a movement of compassion. How falling had led to rising, not just for him, but for everyone who'd been knocked down and told they didn't matter. He thought about the men and women who'd found work because someone saw their worth. He thought about Vincent, who'd lost everything to gain something infinitely more valuable, his humanity. And he thought about Jack and the Iron Covenant, who'd shown him that brotherhood wasn't about blood, it was about showing up when it mattered most. Marcus climbed onto his motorcycle, started the engine, and rode into the fading light. Not as a victim, not as someone defined by what he'd lost, but as a man who'd turned his pain into purpose, and in doing so had changed the world, one act of respect at a time. Thank you for riding with us through Marcus Reed's journey. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that dignity is never lost, only forgotten. And when good people stand together, it can always be reclaimed. Until the next ride, stay strong and stay loyal.